Welcome to Mishnah study in a new Masechet Megillah, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Aleph. So in this Masechet, we're going to discuss a lot of the laws of Mikra Megillah, reading the Megillah, how to do so, where, when, and after we touch upon these laws, we're going to also talk about a lot about Hilchot Sefer Torah, right, which is interesting because he speaks about the Megillah, which is a type of scroll, so too also Sefer Torah will speak about those laws as well. So when it comes to Purim itself, when do we need to read the Megillah? So when the pasuk in the Megillah, it says, when it speaks about Yemeh HaPurim Ha'ele Bizmanehem, right? Talking about reading, talking about the Purim, and it's coming in these days, in these times, right, in plural. So Hachamim were metaken many times to read the Megillah. Now, when the pasuk says Al Ken HaYehudim HaPerazim HaYoshevim Ba'arei HaPerazot Osim Et Yom 14, right? Yom Shteh v'Simcha. They do the people sitting in the open cities, right? Not a walled-in city. An open city, they're going to celebrate on the 14th, right? So now since those people in the open cities on the 14th, so we're going to say walled cities will get to celebrate on the 15th, right? And this is where we get Purim from, and Purim Shushan. Right? Most people will call it Shushan Purim. The better terminology, the correct terminology would be Purim Shushan, Purim Shel Shushan. And over here, right, we see that there's multiple times, the 14th and the 15th, right? And depending if you're a walled city or a non-walled city, that's going to be the criteria. Now, when we speak about a walled city, what's interesting, we'll see the first Mishnah, we'll speak about walled cities from when? From the time of Yoshua bin Nun. Why Yoshua bin Nun? The story of Purim happened in Shushan hundreds of years after Yoshua bin Nun, right? Yoshua bin Nun was long dead. Why are we attributing the 15th, celebrating the walled cities, if it was a wall that was in existence from the time of Yoshua bin Nun? So Harambam points out, based on the Gemara, that we're attributing, right, much of the halachot over here, and we're giving kavod, honor to Eretz Yisrael. Right, because Eretz Yisrael at the time was a land that was really desolate and destroyed. This is talking about, right around that Second Temple period, and therefore we're going to, attribute the law right back to Yoshua bin Nun to give him the kavod, and Eretz Yisrael that kavod. But when it comes to Shushan itself, right, because the miracle happened over there, even though it was not a walled city from the time of Yoshua bin Nun, right, ironically, we're going to, obviously, Shushan is going to celebrate the 15th as well, right? So any walled city from the time of Yoshua bin Nun plus Shushan itself would celebrate on the 15th. Everyone else would celebrate on the 14th. Now, in the times of the Mishnah, there would be more times. So in general, you would have a concept where if you had people that they didn't have people that could read in their city. So they would have these days where they would go to these larger cities, the thoroughfares, and trade on Mondays and Thursdays. And we would say, okay, you know what? You could read even that Monday and Thursday beforehand, right? So let's say Purim fell out on a Wednesday. Go ahead. You could read it from a Monday, right? In those specific scenarios. Now, this is specific to the times of the Beit HaMikdash, the times of the Mishnah. But Harambam points out, right from the times of the Gemara, right, up until the times of Mashiach, b'mehera b'yameinu, right? We don't read it unless it's on its actual appropriate time on the 14th or the 15th, unless Shabbat falls out, right? Unless there's Shabbat involved. And as we mentioned, we cannot read the Megillah on Shabbat, because of that gezerah, the same thing that applied by lulav and shofar, because we don't want you to go ahead and carry it for amot and ashut rabim. Okay, so now that we had all this, right, as an introduction, a little bit of a long introduction, let's jump into the Mishnah, and it will be pretty self-explanatory. So Megillah nikret, Megillah can be read, right? Now, what days can it be read? What days in the month? It can be read on the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, or 15th of the month. No more, no less. Next Mishnah, we're going to discuss how this will fall out. If you have cities that were that had a wall around it from the times of Yoshua bin Nun, they read on the 15th. Right, and we mentioned also Shushan itself, even though it did not have a wall from the time of Yoshua bin Nun. Right, this they will be on the 15th. Kefarim, right, villages, va'ayarot gedolot, or large cities, again, that did not have a wall, korim b'arba'asar. They read on the 14th. But the villages could read it even earlier on the Yom HaKnisa. The Yom HaKnisa, as we mentioned, was a Monday or Thursday, because the people in the villages would get together, to hear. Actually, Rambam says to hear Sefer Torah, right? They would get together to hear the Sefer Torah, and therefore they could also read the Megillah on that time, on that Monday and Thursday, right? So as we mentioned, if the Yudali, the 14th, fell out on a Wednesday, right, they could read it 2 days earlier, right? Read it on the 12th on a Monday. So that's our Mishnah. And next Mishnah, we're going to have this play out a little.